Earlier tonight, Republicans in the Texas House of Representatives passed their new Trump-sanctioned congressional maps that aim to give Republicans more seats in Congress ahead of the 2026 midterms. Despite various efforts by Texas Democrats to block the gerrymandering, including leaving the state for 2 weeks to deny a quorum, they eventually traveled back to Texas this week, and tonight the maps passed, which means that tomorrow the bill goes to the Texas Senate, where it will likely pass and land on Governor Greg Abbott's desk. But this also means that tomorrow, California lawmakers will follow suit and vote on their own counterweight efforts, a congressional map designed to flip as many as 5 Republican-held seats to Democrats. However, unlike Texas, California voters themselves will have the final say in whether this gets approved. And worth noting, President Obama has endorsed this approach. Yesterday at a fundraiser, Obama voiced his support over Governor Newsom's plan, saying, quote, "Given that Texas is taking direction from a partisan White House that is effectively saying gerrymander for partisan purposes so we can maintain the House despite our unpopular policies, I have tremendous respect for how Governor Newsom has approached this." He said, "This is going to be responsible. We're not going to try to completely maximize it. We're only going to do it if and when Texas and or other Republican states begin to pull these maneuvers." Joining me now is Texas State Representative Mejía Lapoliza, Vice Chair of the House Democratic Caucus. It is good to see you and good to have you here. Listen, I know when you all came back to the state of Texas, there was an effort to sell this as a victory, that your being away for weeks had created a groundswell where California, New York, they were now getting serious about doing the same, going toe-to-toe with Greg Abbott. Given that this has now passed through the House where you are, does it still feel like a victory?
Look, this is definitely a victory. Texas Democrats have started a nationwide movement, and we're taking the fight to the bad guys. We have to fight fire with fire. And so I do think it was a victory. We knew as members of the minority party that we were not going to be able to kill this map indefinitely. But what we did know is that we had to get the story out. We had to let people know what was happening. And so I'm very proud to be a Texas Democrat, and I'm proud of the nationwide movement that we started.
I know that there is the expectation that Senate Democrats are going to filibuster this, that there is still room to at least pump the brakes. Do you feel like there is any rabbit yet to be pulled out of a hat?
Look, I think the battle isn't over. We have to take this to the courts, and I feel very confident that these maps will be found unconstitutional under the second section of the Voting Rights Act. So I do think that we have a very good case in the courts. But then we take the battle to the ballot box. I think that Texans, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, they are astonished by what they're seeing. Lawmakers being locked in the chamber, having security DPS following us to the CVS to get a toothbrush. This is un-Texan, this is un-American, and everybody should be paying attention to what's happening.
And that is why you were ripping up your permission slip earlier today, because you and I may be young, but we are too old for that level of supervision. Before the final passage, you had Republican State Rep Katrina Pearson, who's a former Trump campaign aide. She said on the House floor that Democrats are being racist by opposing these maps. She also said that the maps, quote, eliminate gerrymandering in many parts of Texas, which makes me wonder if she knows what it is that she is voting on. Your response to her accusation?
Look, Katrina wants to run in one of these districts that just has been drawn. So that's why she had to make this speech on the House floor and say that she believes that these maps aren't racist. Look, these are the most racist gerrymandered maps Texas has passed since the 1960s and the passage of the Voting Rights Act. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows that they've used some kind of AI technology to suppress the votes of communities of color. They're putting high voting Anglos with low propensity Hispanic and African American voters. And so they know what they're doing. This is a blatant power grab, and everybody should be paying attention. And really, the Republican Party of Texas should be ashamed of themselves. Look, we never got locked in the chamber when children were killed in schools in Texas. We never got locked in the chamber when hundreds of Texans died because we couldn't keep the lights on because our grid failed during a winter storm. And we never got locked in the chamber when the global pandemic of COVID ravished our state and our governor wanted to keep businesses open. So this is a blatant power grab. This is our governor bending the knee to Donald Trump. And I think all Texans should be embarrassed by what the governor has allowed to happen in our state.
One of the things that was happening earlier today that I thought was interesting was you had an amendment that Democrats introduced before these maps were passed. If it had been adopted, the amendment would block the new gerrymandered map from going into effect until there was a complete release of the Epstein files. As you know, Republicans didn't even allow debate on this amendment. That feels to me like them telling on themselves.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head. Look, these Republicans want to tell us that we broke quorum and we vacated our seats and we did something wrong. No, we did what was given to us by our founders in the Texas Constitution. What D.C. Republicans did was walk off the floor because they didn't want to vote on these Epstein files because they know that their king is on these lists. They know that he's in there and they know that it's really bad. They know that it's very bad and it's nothing that they can ever make an excuse for. And they want to hide it. And that is what people need to be paying attention. It's not us trying to break quorum to prevent racist gerrymandered maps. It's the Republicans trying to pull the wool over Texans and Americans' eyes as to what they're trying to hide.
We have less than a minute left, but tomorrow you hand the ball to California. You tell them to run as far as they can with it. What is your message to people in the Golden State?
I think that they need to fight fire with fire. I think that all of us need to do what we can to get in the way. Look, when our Constitution was signed, they said, what do we have? And we heard a republic, if you can keep it. And I'm calling on all Americans, not just those in California, all Americans. We have to fight for this republic and we must keep it.
Texas State Representative Mihaela Plisa, you have had a heck of a day. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.